She shouted, "Give me my son." Her voice cracked through the still night like thunder, echoing off the trees. Her feet were bare, her wrapper soaked with mud and tears. But she didn't care. All that mattered was her child. The warm hues of the setting sun cast long golden shadows across the narrow compound in Umuoma village. Tina sat quietly on a low wooden stool outside her one-room apartment, peeling yam into a basin. Her faded Ankara wrapper clung to her damp skin, and though her face carried the weight of many hard years, there was still a gentle beauty in her eyes. Nearby, her sons Peterson and Jerry played. Peterson, 5 and full of life, ran around with a broken plastic truck. Jerry, nearly 3, stayed closer, occasionally wrapping his tiny arms around Tina's leg and burying his face. Tina had raised them alone since she fled her marriage. Her husband, Mr. Kenneth, once loving, had turned violent. The beatings became routine. His family called her too stubborn whenever she cried out. One night, bloodied and broken, she packed what she could, took her sons, and ran. Since then, she had fought every day to give her children a better life, selling secondhand clothes from Abia, traveling long distances, waking before dawn and returning after dark. That evening, as the shadows lengthened, a tall figure appeared at the gate. A man stepped in, adjusting the strap of his small bag. He was tall, handsome, and dressed in a slightly wrinkled NYSC uniform. His face held the expression of someone new, unfamiliar, but hopeful. "Excuse me, good evening," he said. "Please, Ma, I was told there's a self-contained room available here. I'm Mark. The school assigned me here for my primary posting." Tina looked up slowly. She stood, wiped her hands on her wrapper, and nodded. "Yes, you're in the right place. Come in." He followed her down the corridor. His steps were slow, unsure. Tina's were confident, the stride of a woman who had no one else to depend on but herself. Over the next few weeks, Mark settled in. He became part of the compound, respectful to the other tenants, always neat, always polite. But it was Tina he bonded with most. At first, it was innocent. She showed him the best places to buy groceries, how to greet elders in the village, where to avoid during market days. She let him follow her to the market once, and he watched as she negotiated with sellers like a woman on a mission. Then it grew deeper. They began sharing meals. At night, after the boys slept, they would sit in front of her door, talking. Mark opened up about his childhood, how he had no real family support, how he had always felt like a stranger in his own skin. Tina told him about Kenneth, the fists, the scars, the shame. She didn't cry when she told the story. She had cried enough. Their friendship blossomed into love, quietly, slowly, the kind of love that isn't rushed, but grows from trust and need. One night, Mark leaned forward and brushed a lock of sweat-soaked hair from her forehead. She didn't pull away. They didn't speak, but that night, something shifted. They became lovers. Mark extended his stay even after his service year ended. He claimed he wanted to find work nearby, start fresh. Tina, with her whole heart, believed him. He began helping her more with the children. When her hands were full, he would bathe Jerry, walk Peterson to school, fetch water from the pump. Tina had always carried her children everywhere, even to the market. If her trip fell on a school day, she'd drop them off early and rush back before the bell rang. But if the trip fell on a Saturday, like this one, she would take them with her unless she could find someone she trusted. That Saturday, she was preparing for her Abia run. She packed her sack with money and supplies, adjusting the scarf on her head tightly. Jerry clung to her wrapper. Peterson, already dressed, munched on a slice of bread. "I'll carry them. I'll manage," she mumbled. Mark stepped out of his room, freshly shaved, his shirt tucked into his jeans. "Tina," he said softly, "let me keep them. It's Saturday. I'm not working. Peterson can still go for his lesson. I'll stay with Jerry. You always carry those boys like you don't have help. Rest small." Tina looked at him, unsure. She had never left Jerry with anyone except for Peterson or the school. "Are you sure?" she asked.
eyes scanning his face. Mark smiled, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "I'm sure. He'll be safe with me, I promise." She hesitated, then nodded. She bent and kissed Jerry's head, straightened Peterson's shirt, and left for the bus stop. The journey to Abia was long, but smooth. Tina bought good stock, collected payment from old customers, and even found a new client who wanted bulk delivery. She smiled as she boarded the return vehicle, looking forward to hugging her boys and thanking Mark for helping her.
She got home just before sunset. As she stepped into the compound, the first thing she noticed was the quiet. No giggles, no Peterson shouting, no Jerry running barefoot to welcome her. She dropped her bag and rushed to her room. Empty. The bowl of pap still sat on the stool, untouched. Jerry's toy car was lying on the floor, his slippers by the door. No child in sight. Her chest tightened. "Peterson," she called. She heard footsteps. Peterson was just returning from his lesson, swinging his plastic water bottle. "Where's your brother?" Tina demanded. The boy stopped, confused. "I thought he was with Uncle Mark." She froze. Tina turned and ran to Mark's room. The door creaked open. The room was empty. His mattress was gone. His bag was gone. His clothes gone. Only a torn sachet of water and Jerry's small red shirt remained. Tina's scream tore through the compound. Neighbors rushed out. Someone tried to hold her. She collapsed on the ground, gripping Jerry's shirt and wailing. That night, Tina didn't sleep. She went to police station and gave statement. She gave them all the details she could remember: his NYSC ID, his number, even the photocopy of his posting letter. 2 days later, a police officer came looking for Tina. He said, "We found the school where he did his service. We got his file. The address he gave leads to a small village near Nasarawa. His people are there." They journeyed to the village with Tina. The reaction was instant. "Mark? Who is he?" They were shocked. One of the officers stepped forward and clarified. "He changed his name. His real name is David John Michael." The old man's eyes widened. "David? That's him. He ran away years ago, stole money, and disappeared. We never saw him again." His father was dead, his mother bedridden. His uncle added, "He was always bad, different, secretive." A woman from the village stepped forward. She had a scarf tied tightly around her head, her eyes squinting. "Wait, you say he took your child?" Tina nodded weakly. "I saw him yesterday. He entered the village with a small boy. He told someone he was going to take the child to Benue today." Tina collapsed on the floor. Her cries were not loud, just a long, low moan of a mother fighting madness. The police began making urgent calls. Tina stood up slowly, her eyes wild. "I'm going to Benue. I will not stop until I find my child." And with that, the real chase began. The cold wind rushed through the open windows of the police van as it sped down the dusty highway. Tina sat between two officers, her wrapper tightly gripped in her fists. Her eyes, dry, red, and fierce, stared blankly ahead. She hadn't eaten in nearly 2 days. Peterson had been left with a kind neighbor. Tina kissed him and whispered, "I'll bring your brother back. I promise." The van bumped over potholes as they crossed into Benue State. The officers had received a call from the woman in the village. Mark had been spotted again, this time on foot, headed toward the river border that linked their region with a known illegal crossing. Tina's fingers trembled, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "If you don't find him, I will." They reached the nearest checkpoint by early evening. A local vigilante group joined in. Word had spread quickly. A woman in the village had seen him not long ago. She described Mark perfectly. Tall, clean-cut, walking with a small boy who looked tired and barefoot. "Where did they go?" one of the officers asked. The woman pointed toward the river road. "That way. But he's avoiding main roads. He's hiding." They followed the trail. Tina insisted on going with them. "She's the only one who knows the child's voice," one of the officers finally said. "Let her come." They passed quiet farmlands, narrow bush paths, and rows of cassava. The deeper they went, the darker it got. A soft drizzle began to fall, soaking through Tina's scarf. Then they heard it. A faint cough, a child's cough. Tina froze. Her heart leapt. "Jerry?" she called out, her voice cracking. Silence. Then the sound of hurried footsteps in the bush. "Move!" the lead officer shouted. The team dashed forward, their torchlights cutting through the dark. Branches snapped underfoot. Leaves whipped at their arms. Suddenly, someone shouted, "There!" In the distance, Mark burst out of the trees, carrying Jerry, wrapped in a cloth, asleep or unconscious. "Stop!" one of the officers barked. But Mark ran faster, clutching the boy tightly like a stolen prize. Tina screamed his name, a scream that shattered through the night like thunder. "Mark!
Give me my
He
son!"
paused, just for a second. And in that second, Tina saw it all. The madness in his eyes, the emptiness, the sickness he'd kept hidden under smiles and soft words. "Give me back my son!" she wailed, charging toward him. Her feet sank into the mud, but she didn't care. The officers surrounded him. He turned, wild-eyed, his chest heaving. "He's mine now. He listens to me. He's better off." Before he could finish, a blow from one of the officers sent him sprawling to the ground. Jerry rolled gently from his arms, dazed but unharmed. Tina dropped to her knees, scooping her son into her arms. "Jerry?" she whispered, sobbing, as she kissed every part of his face. "My baby, my baby." The boy stirred, weak but alive. He blinked at her, confused, then began to cry, soft, tired cries. Tina rocked him, her body trembling with relief and rage. Mark was handcuffed, his head bleeding from the fall. He muttered nonsense, eyes distant as they dragged him back through the path. Tina didn't look at him again. Back at the station, Tina held Jerry all night. He barely spoke. He just clung to her, his tiny hands never letting go. She didn't sleep. She watched his chest rise and fall, watched the scratches on his arms, and silently vowed no one would ever touch her children again. The next morning, as the sun rose over the police compound, Tina sat under the mango tree, Jerry wrapped in a blanket, sleeping in her lap. An officer approached, holding a file. "We found more records. He was never a real copper. He forged most of his details. We're investigating how he even got posted at all." Tina didn't respond. She just stared out at the road. Her voice came softly. "He made us believe he was family. He sat at my table, ate my food, slept beside me." Then she looked up. Her eyes were wet but strong. "But he didn't break me." The officer gave a small nod, then walked away. Tina pressed her cheek to Jerry's head and whispered, "You're safe now." The sun had just broken through the gray evening sky when Tina stepped out of the police compound, carrying Jerry in her arms.
His small body felt lighter than she remembered. He hadn't eaten much, he hadn't smiled, but he was alive. She didn't go straight home. Instead, she took a bike to the nearest government hospital. Inside the small examination room, Jerry sat on the bed, his fingers gripping Tina's scarf tightly. A young nurse adjusted the IV drip beside him. The doctor, a kind, middle-aged woman, ran gentle hands over his arms and legs. "No bruises or broken bones," she murmured, "but he's dehydrated and scared, deeply scared." Tina sat quietly, her eyes locked on her son. "I want every test," she said. "I want to know what that man did to my child." The doctor nodded. For the next few days, Jerry remained under care. He barely spoke. He had occasional nightmares, sudden screams in the middle of the night. Tina never left her side. On the third day, the doctor returned with the file. Physically, he's okay. No signs of abuse, but emotionally, he'll need help. Gentle love, patience. Tina exhaled slowly. He'll get both. As they left the hospital, she passed the nurse's station. A radio played in the background, then crackled into a breaking news alert. Former NYSC member caught in child trafficking ring. Tina stopped. The radio continued. Investigation reveals suspect pose as a serving copper in remote communities to gain trust. Suspected to be linked to recent disappearances of children in Benue and Nasarawa. Later that day, she went to submit the doctor's report when one of the officers confirmed that Mark had never completed university. He forged documents to enter NYSC. His real name was David John Michael, wanted in 2 states. His strategy had been the same everywhere. Move into a small community, pose as a copper, gain trust, and then wait. He was selling children, one by one. "Why didn't the police catch him sooner?" Tina asked, trembling. "He moved a lot," the officer replied. "He changed names, and most of the mothers were too scared to speak out, or they never found their children to begin with." It turned out, in that same village, 2 other children had gone missing over the past year. Each case unsolved. Rumors had spread. Mothers became alert, protective. Mark hadn't found an easy target in months. But the pressure was mounting. Al-Haji, his buyer, had been calling. The same man who trafficked children across borders, who paid double for toddlers under 5. Mark had delayed too long. So when Tina trusted him, when she left Jerry behind that Saturday, he saw opportunity. He took it. But he didn't expect Tina to come for her son, like fire and storm. He didn't expect a mother who would chase him across states, barefoot if needed, shouting her son's name through the trees.
Back in Umuoma, the compound welcomed Tina like a returning queen. Women from the neighborhood brought food, wrappers, gifts. The village elders came to pray for Jerry. Children peeked out from behind their mothers' backs to see the boy who had returned. Tina sat quietly under her mango tree, holding Jerry close. Her body still trembled some nights, but her eyes had changed. They no longer held fear. They held fire. Peterson hugged his brother tightly, never straying too far from him again. And Tina, she became something else in that compound. No longer just the market woman who ran from her husband. She was the woman who faced a ghost and won. 1 week later, the nation stood still. From morning news segments to evening radio broadcasts, the stories swept across Nigeria like wildfire. Breaking news: courageous mother helps expose major child trafficking and ritual ring in Benue and Nasarawa states. On television screens, Tina's photo appeared, holding Jerry close, surrounded by officers. A female news anchor spoke with emotion. Thanks to the bravery of Madame Tina, a single mother from Umuoma, Alhaji and his syndicate have been captured. Investigations confirmed that the gang was responsible for multiple child disappearances and ritual killings across state lines. Mark, the man she once trusted, is now in custody. Across the country, people stopped to listen.
Barber shops turned up the volume. Bus drivers paused to hear the headlines. In markets, radios buzzed with the same story. "Let this be a message to all communities," the voice declared. "Speak out, stand up, we will listen and we will act." Tina sat at home, her boys beside her, watching the television in stunned silence. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from disbelief. Peterson turned to her and asked quietly, "Mommy, is that really yours?" She smiled, pulled him close, kissed Jerry's head. 2 officers visited her later that afternoon. One of them held a sealed folder with the police crest stamped in red. "We thought you should know," the officer began. "We didn't just catch Mark." Tina looked up slowly, her expression unreadable, but her eyes were already sharp, as if she knew what was coming. "I saw part of it on the morning news. The arrests, the raiding Boko. I had a feeling it was them." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner, then continued, voice low and grim. "We traced Mark's calls, followed the account he received money from. It led to a compound on the outskirts of Boko. They had everything set up, forged birth certificates, fake adoption papers, baby items, and rooms designed to look like orphanages. It wasn't just Jerry, there were others, dozens, infants, toddlers, even pregnant women." Tina closed her eyes, a deep shiver running through her. She pressed her hand to her chest. "I knew it. I knew something evil was hiding behind that man's smile." The officer nodded solemnly. "They've been doing this for years, behind so many of the disappearances that haunted this region. They sold some children, used others for rituals." Tina's knees wobbled as she stood, holding onto the armrest for support. "They killed them?" she whispered. "Yes, for money rituals. Alaji and his gang operated like ghosts, moving from town to town, covering their tracks. But Mark's greed slipped through the cracks, and your courage to speak out, brought them down." Weeks passed. The story flooded national headlines. Police uncover major child trafficking and ritual ring. Masterminds sentenced to life imprisonment. The trial was swift but thorough. Evidence was overwhelming. Mark stood in court pale and silent, offering no defense. Alaji, dressed in white, claimed innocent until the very end. The courtroom gasped as pictures of buried items, receipts, and bones were shown. Mothers cried, reporters wept. The courtroom walls echoed with pain that had been bottled up for years. When the final sentence was read, life imprisonment for all defendants, no possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted. Some people cheered, others fell to their knees for praise. Tina sat at the front row, holding Jerry in her lap, tears running freely. For every child that never came home, for every mother who never got closure, for every time she had been ignored, she cried. Later that month, the police headquarters in Umuoma organized a public award ceremony. It was the biggest gathering the town had seen in decades. A stage was mounted, flags flew high. The governor's representative stood beside senior police officers. Tina was pulled forward first. She wore a bold Ankara dress with matching headgear. Peterson and Jerry held both sides of her wrapper. Her beauty had returned, not just in appearance, but in spirit. She had risen from ashes. The crowd stood and clapped. She was given the National Honor for Civilian Courage Award. Next, the lead officer, the man who believed her story when others brushed it off, was called forward. He was presented with the Medal of Service and Bravery. Tina turned to him on the podium, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "I want to thank this officer and the Nigerian police force for not sleeping on my cry, for treating my pain like their own, for doing what many would not." The crowd clapped louder. "Because of you," she said, voice cracking, "my son is alive, and so many other mothers have found truth. Thank you for fighting with me." The officer bowed his head respectfully, his hand over his chest. "We only did our job, but your voice made the world listen."
The crowd at the Umuoma town square remained on their feet as Tina stepped off the podium, her arms full with her framed award and bouquet of flowers. Her boys followed close, smiling shyly. The drums were still beating, and the praise from the crowd felt endless. Then the governor's representative stepped forward. He wore a crisp gray kaftan and held a document in his hand. The microphone was raised again as the crowd quieted. He cleared his throat and turned to Tina, who had paused near the podium steps. "Madam Tina," he said, voice rich with admiration, "you didn't just fight for your child, you helped uncover one of the darkest syndicates in this state's history. On behalf of the government and in partnership with the Nigerian police force, we want to honor you further." He unfolded the paper. "We are offering you a full-time job at the newly formed Community Child Protection Desk, right here in Umuwuma. You will help train other mothers, raise awareness, and assist with cases related to missing children." Gasps of surprise swept through the crowd. Tina froze, eyes wide, lips trembling. The man continued, "You've shown us what courage looks like, and we believe you're the perfect person to help protect others like you." Tina covered her mouth with one hand, tears welling instantly. Her body shook as her sons clung to her legs. The moment felt surreal. She slowly stepped forward, took the document with both hands, and held it to her chest. Her voice was soft, broken by emotion. "Thank you. Thank you, sir. This is more than I ever dreamed. May God bless you all. My joy is full, it is everlasting." The crowd roared with applause. Some ululated, some clapped, some just stood in awe, watching a woman who had once been broken now stand as a symbol of power, justice, and rebirth. Later that evening, in the quiet of her compound, Tina sat beneath the mango tree. The boys slept peacefully inside. She looked up at the moon, bright and calm. She didn't whisper prayers of pain anymore. She whispered gratitude. And she smiled, because in the end, light won.
Where did you go, my child, my light? Through the dark I'll chase the night. No mountain high, no river wide will keep this mother from your side. Peterson weeps, Jerry cries, but love will fight until it finds